Hi Henny, how are you? Welcome back to the channel, or if you're new here, I'm Teknikolour. This week's build is pretty cool because it's my very first time building in Evergreen Harbor. Before we start though, I do a lot of building in The Sims 4 here on YouTube, so if that sounds fun and you like what you see, don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you'd like to help support my content in a big way, you can use my EA creator code, Teknikolour, at checkout on the EA app when grabbing Sims packs or even other EA games like Apex Legends or Dragon Age. It gives me a small 5% commission at no extra cost to you, and it really does help me continue being able to make content like this full time. I have wanted to build in Evergreen Harbor, the world that comes with the Eco Lifestyle expansion pack, for the longest time. But I've always been incredibly confused by how the world itself operates. If you didn't know, there's gameplay that's tied directly to how Evergreen Harbor looks, and actions you take in-game have a real effect on the environment. I think this kind of mechanic is super interesting, and I'm grateful that we have it, but if you're strictly a builder or, like me, haven't spent much time with this pack's gameplay features, this feature can quickly become a barrier to embracing what Evergreen Harbor has to offer. I had known that the Eco Lifestyle pack had come with activities for sustainable living, so I was aware that there are certain objects like solar panels or wind turbines that I think are more of a passive activity. But I also knew that you could use other objects to recycle or do vertical gardening and even grow meat. But that's another conversation entirely. I think in general, I like that these activities and objects exist in the game. But since I haven't had much personal gameplay experience with them, I usually forget about them and neglect to include them in any of my builds. However, Eco Lifestyle also came with a pretty big feature, which is the one that has an effect on how Evergreen Harbor looks, that I have had such trouble understanding and usually just turn off or ignore entirely. Neighborhood action plans. The whole idea of these is the neighborhood comes together to vote weekly on what they should embrace going forward. This could be neighborhood action plans like back to the old days, where you get fined for using electronics, or clean energy production, where you'll see an increase in your bills if you don't embrace renewable energy sources, like the solar panels. Sometimes based on how you build and play in The Sims 4, this can end up being a real negative. Imagine playing with a limited budget and then adding Eco Lifestyle to your game because you like some of the CAS or build by, but then your sim is getting fines or yelled at by neighbors for not participating in the NAP voting system. It can be pretty confusing and daunting, or at least it was to me when I first added Eco Lifestyle to my game, and to an extent, still kind of is. To me, most of the neighborhood action plans had a negative impact on my game, or the plan titles weren't super obvious to me what the impact would end up being. So again, I typically just disabled the feature or ignored it altogether. But some of the neighborhood action plans can be incredibly fun and add more depth to your game, especially if you're playing in Evergreen Harbor. For instance, Evergreen Harbor looks kind of nasty when you first check it out. There's smog, pollution everywhere, and it just doesn't look very appealing to play or build in. So I've pretty much always avoided it. But recently, someone from my community, Marina Sky, whose name you might recognize from my previous shell challenges, is a super talented builder and completely renovated all of Evergreen Harbor. As someone who's avoided this world for the most part, I wondered what the actual appeal was and had some serious FOMO. So I did some digging and found out that even if you're just building, you can use mods or cheats to enact some of these NAPs and change Evergreen Harbor into the flourishing world it's honestly meant to be. I use a fair amount of mods, but I'm pretty sure the one that helped me achieve this was the UI Cheats extension, which is a must-have mod for me. I essentially just clicked to adjust features instantly, avoiding the time-consuming gameplay, so I could get right into the build. So I was able to quickly change the look of Evergreen Harbor from having litter and garbage all over and covered in a hazy smog, to a beautiful and clean place with sunflower drawings on the roads. I asked my friend Marina for her input on which lots I should build on, and between her suggestions and my own looking around the different neighborhoods, I settled on the Piggylock Manor lot where the Tinker household lives. I really liked this lot because the surrounding environment is really pretty, and it's separated enough from the other houses to warrant its own style. I also knew that I wanted to embrace faux columns and use platforms or other mechanics to build out areas of interest on the lot. I even remembered seeing a metal pergola previously that I thought would be fun to use as a carport. I got to work crafting something that I thought looked super cute and modern, laid out beautifully with the carport snuggled in next to the house and in front of a sort of back patio area. Until something made me check what the gallery thumbnail would look like and discovered I had been building it all backwards. I was so frustrated when I found that out that I needed to do some rearranging and make the build appear the right way on the gallery. Honestly, I'm still pretty annoyed because I am pretty sure the Tinker House was also built backwards. So I could have avoided all of my frustration had I just known that or checked the gallery thumbnail earlier. I originally had the carport right next to the entrance to the house, but it made sense to go from your car to your front door. Anyway, moving the carport to the side of the house and still accessible from the road meant that I now needed to rethink my back patio and ended up giving me a more interesting pathway to either the front or back patio from the carport. Plus, you'll see by the end of the video, we make this sort of hangout space in what becomes the front yard that makes much more sense in this world and particular neighborhood, since it's more walkable with certain NAPs enacted. So, silver linings, I suppose. Anyway, since the overall exterior build and design of this lot took a lot more time than it usually does, maybe I can give you a little personal update. If you weren't aware, I actually just celebrated my anniversary of becoming a content creator, and it was kind of a milestone, 5 years. Since it was kind of a turning point in a way, I wanted to reevaluate some of the things I do content-wise. And so I've decided to embrace something my community has been asking me for a bit, a book club. I always have such high hopes for myself in terms of how many books I can read throughout the year, at the start of the year. And then midway through, or even in the final months, I start to realize I've barely done any reading. That changes now. As a content creator, I rely heavily on support from viewers like you to be able to continue making the content that I do. One of those ways is to become a member on Ko-fi, which I'll explain a little more in a little bit. And I've recently decided to change up how that membership on Ko-fi works, and I'm very excited about it. Now I'll be hosting a book club instead of the previously offered behind-the-scenes blog posts. I think that this can provide way more interactions among my community members and myself outside of my live streams. Plus, you'll be able to help out by influencing which books we read, and we'll all share our thoughts at the end of each month. It's not going to be super serious. I'm not Reese Witherspoon or anything, but I really think that this will be a new way to connect with you and help us all get more reading done, which I think is important. Support your local library. This, I hope, will motivate me to spend more time outdoors and doing physical activity as well, especially because I really enjoy reading via audiobooks and going on walks while I listen. And since my community has been asking for something like a book club for a bit, I think it's a really good idea. You might also be asking yourself, what exactly is Ko-fi? So I should probably explain that. Currently, I primarily make content on YouTube, these speed build videos, and Twitch, live streams. And I offer monthly subscriptions through Twitch, which gives subscribers ad-free viewing, emotes, badges, and other perks. However, I also offer monthly subscriptions through a platform called Ko-fi, or Ko-fi, which I believe started off as a kind of tipping platform for creators. I think the name Ko-fi even originated from that idea of buying me a coffee in exchange for me putting out my content. However, Coffee has expanded over time to become so much more. Right now, I offer 2 different monthly subscription options through Coffee. One as a sort of Twitch alternative, and another which will act as our monthly book club. It's basically just another optional way to support your favorite creators, but I wanted to mention it in case you'd not heard of it. Maybe Twitch streams aren't your thing, but you'd still like to support me in some way other than watching, and Ko-fi is a way to do that. Plus, if you're hoping to get more reading done like me, it might be something to look into. I'll drop the link in the description, and of course, absolutely no pressure, but I just wanted to give it a mention. Mostly because I think it'll get me to, as they say, touch grass and get outside more. It's always helpful to stay away from The Sims 4 for a few minutes and get some inspiration for storytelling, drama, or builds. Oh, and before we get back to talking about this build, The Sims 4 just dropped a new base game update yesterday, which I am really excited about. We just received a bunch of new skin details in Kaz, plus they gave us a new pack selection feature. It looks like we'll be able to select which packs we want to use in new saves going forward, which will help free up resources, but can also be a fun way to make individual saves. However, what I am most honestly excited about is a simple bug fix they tacked on to this update. Sims with bad luck from Enchanted by Nature are now less likely to start a fire while cooking. Thank you. I don't know about you, but I was afraid this was how they intended to have bad luck work, and I am so relieved to learn that it was a bug and will hopefully happen a lot less. In my legacy save, I swear, my sim started a fire every time he tried to cook because he consistently had bad luck. But anyway, thank you for being patient with me through that little tangent. I should say that this build seriously kept me on my toes throughout the entire process. I feel like I had an idea in mind for specific aspects like the exterior wall paint, and the final result is so different from what I started out with. For instance, I started out with the front of this build expecting to have the bump out on each floor a different size. I've seen this in real life buildings where maybe the bottom portion sticks out a little more than the top portion and is usually covered in a different material. This is probably one of my biggest issues with building in The Sims 4, because I think we really need the ability to build on half tiles. Do you know what I mean? Sometimes having a wall or whatever placed an entire tile away is just too far, but a half tile would be so much better. I will say that in certain building situations in the game, you can make things like this work, but I just did not like how it was turning out here. So I opted to get rid of the size differences and use trim to achieve a similar look. I like it. I've done something similar with platforms in the past, where you can have a portion of the floor stick out the whole tile and you sacrifice some of your wall height. But I didn't want to do all that for this particular build. Going off of that same visual interest idea, I knew that I wanted to do something kind of funky on the left side of this build, but wasn't sure what to do exactly until I decided to add in a built-in fireplace. I've done this before in a lot of my builds, and it can be a ton of fun to create and see working in the game, but can take some finessing, especially with the help of mods, like the tool mod, to look right. On the exterior, I added a 3-tile wide chimney that goes all the way past the roof, but only the center tile continues past the first floor. Then I added 2 curved roof pieces on either side to make it look like the chimney itself isn't just a straight line up to the roof. It can be really difficult to make the roof piece, paint and trim, match the chimney walls, but I think I did a pretty good job matching them here. Then, on the interior, I used the new glass wall swatches and columns to create floor-to-ceiling windows. Inside the chimney room, I used that warm ombre wall paint swatch, a small platform with floor paint and platform trim to match, and then added a few of the flaming basketballs that we received from, I believe, City Living, resized and dropped inside the platform to give the look of fireplace flames. Honestly, I think this might be one of the better custom fireplaces I've designed in the game because I'm specifically using the glass wall swatches instead of actual windows. It gave the space a completely different look and feel. The floor plan of the first floor also ended up drastically different from my original idea. I think I was going to put the kitchen in the space where we added the fireplace, with a little breakfast nook in the bump out at the front of the build. Instead, I shift the kitchen to the square space in the back of the build and put a dining table in front of the fireplace. Then I added a staircase that climbs up to the second floor along that back wall with an archway underneath the staircase. This sort of helps to hide the kitchen and makes the front part of the build look more like one singular open floor plan room. Clutter from the kitchen gets hidden away, and so does the access to the backyard. Eventually, that space where I was going to put a breakfast nook ends up being an office. So it ultimately worked out in the end, having you enter in through the living room and then leading into an office or dining room before making a decision between going upstairs or back to the kitchen and back patio. This is also where I discovered I was building on the lot backwards. I honestly have no idea what prompted me to check the gallery thumbnail was going to look like here, but I am so glad that I did. It ended up requiring me to fully rethink the carport and driveway, but in the end, we ended up with a pretty sizable front yard that becomes usable space towards the end of the video. I kind of made a goof with the back patio. This little open room between the carport and the house itself was going to be an extension of the back patio. I planned on putting a lot of the eco lifestyle activity items back here, like the dew collector and recycler and all that. Instead, I started building a pool, and by the time I realized I had not wanted a pool in this space, it was too late to go back. On the bright side, I'm really pleased with the way this little pool room looks in the finished build. I went back and forth between having a half wall or fence as a sort of railing around the patio, wrapping around the front, but opted for the half wall in the end. When I was building this pool space though, it didn't feel very private at all and felt very strange having the pool right next to the carport. I remember the bamboo slotted fence that is full wall height from this pack, and once I added it in with some actual walls in between, it gave the space so much privacy, but also kept the openness that I loved about it from the beginning. Plus, with a full wall between this spot and the carport, there's less issue with the car fumes that are 100% non-existent because A, cars aren't real in The Sims 4, and B, this is a silly little game where no humans would be harmed by car fumes. Get a grip, tech! Now is about the time that I go full throttle into building out the kitchen, and again, this space looks different from my first go at it because I 100% forgot that I would need, or want really, a bathroom on the main floor. You'll see at one point, there's some island counters and wall cabinets against the 2x2 bathroom space. But that all changed once I made the bathroom into a 3x1 half bath. When I did that, there was more space, although not quite enough, in my opinion, to add in a more substantial island with seating. That middle bar stool you see isn't actually functional and is just kind of there. I used the tool mod again here to rotate the island pieces around as a whole to have the seats end up in a specific space kind of parallel to that corner. I also do this thing quite a lot where I use windows as backsplashes in my kitchens. Does anyone else do this? Do you like this? I feel like I've seen this online in real homes where people are very divided about it. I think I'm pro window as a backsplash myself, but I know keeping it clean in real life would annoy the hell out of me. And I'd likely always be afraid I'd break the window somehow. But in The Sims, I think it looks fantastic. It's a fun little way to add in more natural light and allow you as the player to see more of the surrounding environment, which I personally think is good for gameplay. This room, believe it or not, actually ended up getting very little natural light, at least in build mode for some reason. It could be the nearby rounded structures that may or may not be water towers or something. I'm not entirely sure, but at night they light up and look beautiful. Again, I use the kitchen clutter kit a ton to decorate this kitchen. Not to convince anyone to go out and get more kits, but I really think this one is worth it. I've started branching out some and not solely using this kit and the sleek bathroom kit to decorate my kitchens and bathrooms, but the kitchen clutter kit can really be used in so many different styles of kitchens, where the sleek bathroom kit kind of locks you into one specific style for the entire room. I should really consider making some pack ranking videos. Would you want to watch that? Let me know. In the front, that sort of landing space wraps around the right side of the building and leads into the back patio pool area with a little pathway to the carport. I felt like by having the mailbox right in the front, next to the faux column, it sort of gives some privacy to that walkway in the back. Plus, by adding the trash cans tucked away behind the column, it sort of makes it clear that this is more of a space for the household and not visitor friendly. I'm such a typical New Yorker. I must be hidden from my neighbors and don't need to know them. This is my space. That is yours. To really drive that feeling home, I wanted a gate of some kind between separating the walkway itself from the back patio. None of the gates worked in my opinion, so I opted for a door. I ended up adding a half wall in this spot and then slotting one of the eco lifestyle doors onto it, which I think helps it blend in with the build really well. I have no idea if doors remain functional on half walls, but I would assume that they do. I should also probably take this moment to say that I didn't really playtest this build, so I hope it's functional, especially because I know that doors underneath staircases can work, and should, in my opinion, so hopefully your Sims can access the kitchen. Okay, don't get mad, but I used the Casanova Cave television yet again in a build. I might be this kit's biggest fan, or at least of certain items from it. This TV, the photo frames, the stereo. I just think it's one of the best TVs we have in the game now, especially because if you shift it into the wall a bit, you're no longer limited to the style or height of the backdrop. I did struggle a bit to decide how I wanted the furniture staged though. Ultimately, I decided to put the TV on the back wall so it's directly opposite the front door. It's not ideal, but I think the flow of the space felt better this way. I also used that curvy couch from Growing Together that I'm pretty sure I might be the only person using. Do you like this couch? Do you use it in builds? I swear, I have never seen anyone else use it. And I'm surprised because I think it really helps to make living rooms feel more airy. Honestly, I think that Growing Together's build by and world don't get anywhere near enough love. I might be biased. It was the first expansion pack to launch after I started playing The Sims 4, but it's probably one of my favorites. I almost built this house in San Sequoia, but since I literally always default to San Sequoia, Brindleton Bay, and Copperdale, I'm glad I branched out to Evergreen Harbor. Especially because, again, this is my first time building in this world, and cheating some of the neighborhood action plans completely changed my perspective of it. Something that I thought was kind of funky that I did was I had the couches on either side of the TV with 2 seats at the end, which isn't new. I've definitely done it before, but this time I used those armless chairs from Lovestruck. I don't know that I would have initially paired these 2 pieces together, but I think that they really complement each other. Since these chairs are curvy and armless, it also definitely helps to make this area feel very airy and welcoming, which is great right off of the front door. I also stepped out of my comfort zone and made some custom lighting. I have no clue what prompted me to do this, but I combined 3 different ceiling lights. So I have the Lovestruck Rose chandelier as the main light, with the Spa Day drippy light sized down in the middle of that, with that low-hanging geometric light from high school years in the middle of that. This space is well lit, clearly, but I don't think it looks odd at all. Plus, you can adjust the lights individually as needed to suit your own preferences. I was really pleased with how it looks altogether. Speaking of custom pieces, I decided to layer the oval-shaped coffee table from Dream Home Decorator, rotating each individual table until it completed the shape. This way, it looks like a flower and perfectly reflects the Lovestruck ceiling light above it. I know for a fact that since they're layered together, they're going to do that annoying visual layering thing, depending on how you move the camera. But for this look, I am more than willing to live with it. Then I added a little flower arrangement item to the middle because I started getting autumn vibes from the build. I don't know about you, but I am so ready for autumn. It's my favorite season, but I am just over this heat. This summer has been really hot. Yesterday, I went out for a walk and listened to an audiobook, and it was the first day that it felt comfortable, and I didn't come home looking like a sweaty beast. I seriously cannot wait for autumn. After that, I started working on the office space, which has a big picture window at the front, but still needed a lot of openness to feel like it made sense here to me. So I tried a lot of different doors and windows and archways before I settled on something that I liked. All struggles have been removed for time. I opted for having 2 of those frosted glass doors on each angled wall, with that geometric sort of window from, I think, Fitness Stuff. I don't really like to use this window because, at least in my game, it looks so pixelated, but it was the only thing that just instantly worked in this spot. Plus, I used a fair amount of orange throughout this build, so it fit in perfectly. It's still quite a small room though, so I really just added a desk, bookshelf, and wall shelf in here. Putting in the desk chair makes it super tight, so by having the doors on either side of it instead of directly behind it, I hope it makes this space functional. I wasn't done making custom pieces either. I combined that accent table from Spa Day and the slotted wall divider from Businesses and Hobbies to make a more substantial wall divider. It helps to separate the living room from the dining room and also helps to hide the staircase in a small way. Then I decided to add in a few more windows to the space, 3 of those rectangular ones above the TV, and a large floor-to-ceiling one right behind the couch. After that, I spent some time decorating the entryway. I added a little side table with one of the new indoor planters on it, along with a little bowl for keys or whatever, and a little statue. I think towards the end of the build, I also tuck a little pet bed under the table. I feel like it's not going to be functional, and if it isn't, it should be, because that's such a realistic space for a pet bed. Under the stairs, I focused on adding another pet bed and adding in some plants, so it wouldn't look like just dead space. From there, I started putting some finishing touches on the rest of this floor, including adding rugs and picture frames. On the back patio, I added some string lights as well as some pool decor to the pool room. I also added an outdoor kitchen area before moving back to the interior of the build. Upstairs, I started working on the floor plan and dividing the space into 2 bedrooms with room for 2 full bathrooms. I like having a smaller bedroom for the second bedroom close to the stairs with a bathroom right next to it. Then that gave me a pretty big space for the primary bedroom with their ensuite bathroom right in the bump out above the office. For the primary bedroom, I decided to keep the space fairly simple. I added a bed and nightstands and then added a TV with a dresser under it directly across from the bed. Paired with a fireplace, it helps to fill up that entire wall between the entrance and the bathroom. On either end of the bedroom, by the windows, I added seating and a second dresser. I kept with the orange and blue color scheme I've been using throughout the build too. I think since there's a lot of cream-colored items mixed in, it really helped make this room feel very soothing and luxurious as far as bedrooms go. I was also a little worried that the golden TV frame would stick out or look a bit like an eyesore combined with everything else. But since the main image also uses blues, creams, and a touch of orange, it honestly pulled it all together. The horse ranch rug is absolutely perfect in this room too. The colors were like made for this room. And I almost forgot about this rug, if I'm being honest, which is quite comical because I use it a fair amount. It actually reminds me of my own rug in our living room. For the second bedroom, I was envisioning this would be a teen space, but I wanted to keep some sort of similar color scheme. I felt like the trans colors worked incredibly here, so I gravitated towards a lot of blues and pinks, with more preference for the pinks. Then, when it came to the clutter stage, it felt appropriate to add a little trans wall hanging. I also went and did something I don't normally do and used one of the open closet items with hanging clothes items on them. I don't really like open closet items like this. I am much more of a dresser person too, so I don't normally love to add closets or wardrobes, but since this room is so small, it felt like the right piece of furniture to add in. I put a mirror and some art around, sort of implying this teenager is either an artist or at least appreciates art. I took this time to also add some more clutter and decor around this floor before officially moving onto the hallway or stair landing, where I placed a chess table. I never really do this, but I added wall shelves under the window in the stair landing. Then I spent some time picking out clutter that I thought would fit here, following the styles of the Sims I was envisioning living here. Back outside, I added a picnic table and some wall decor to the back patio. I also added a tree with lanterns hanging from it to the front yard, as well as a swing set. Then I placed a picnic blanket, picnic basket, and some chairs in front of a projector screen. Now there's a little outdoor movie hangout area, as well as a place to eat and spend time outdoors while still on the lot. Great place to chill with either the family or neighbors and friends. After that, I spent a fair amount of time landscaping for a space that doesn't have too much grass. I added a grouping of rocks underneath the tree in the front, then added some flowers and grass surrounding it. Around the perimeter of the building, I added some shrubs and smaller trees, as well as groupings of flowers to add in a bit more visual interest. Then, above the pool area, there's a wooden roof with a cutout for green space and then a window in the center. I spent some time adding some flowers and bushes and things within the fenced-in green space to make a sort of green plant roof without using the new plants on roof feature. I think this particular spot came out really nicely, and I definitely do something like this again in the future. After that, I spend some time putting the finishing touches on the build. Leftover lighting changes, some curtains, and terrain paint. But that, my friends, is the entire speed build. Let's hop into the game and I can do a quick tour. Here we are in the Conifer Station neighborhood of Evergreen Harbor, and this is my revised Piggy Lock Manor. As you can see, the entrance is right here, and then there's this pathway to the back patio, but you have this lovely little front yard hangout space here. Then in the back of the build, you can see that there is this dining area back here, and then we have the pool room over here with this green roof, and the carport over here, which this is not really an eco-friendly car, but pretend. Once you enter into the build, you can see that you're greeted with this living room, and then over here is the dining room and this beautiful fireplace. Then there's the office in the front, and then tucked behind the staircase is the entrance to the kitchen, which also has this half bath and then access to the back patio and pool area. Heading upstairs, you are greeted with the stair landing, and then this first room is this teen's bedroom, which I think came out really nice. And then you have the family bathroom over here. And then you have access to the primary bedroom, which honestly might be one of my more favorite bedrooms that I've ever designed. I really, really love the colors in this room. And then, of course, you have the primary bathroom right over here with this dual shower. But that, my friends, is the entire build. Thank you so much for watching. If you'd like to download this build off the gallery, you can find it using my EA account ID, Teknikolour. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you won't miss out on future videos. Plus, don't forget to use my creator code, Teknikolour, if you're planning on grabbing Eagle Lifestyle, Kitchen Clutter, or any other Sims packs. While it unfortunately isn't a discount code, it does help take a small portion of your sale out of EA's pockets and helps to support my channel so I can keep making content like this full time. But I'll catch you in the next one. Bye-bye.